All right, so welcome everyone to Physiology Online. This is at Long Beach. There's a lecture and a lab component associated with this class. And our class format will be a hybrid of live Zoom lectures, which will be every Tuesday, Thursday, as well as online work. And we'll talk about what that will include. But because this is kind of a hybrid class, and we're not meeting in person for 3 hours, lecture and lab combined, we'll meet probably for about an hour. I know they gave us till 8 p.m. I did that in case we need to go a little later sometimes, but we'll probably meet for about an hour every Tuesday and Thursday to check in, to have a short lecture, and to introduce you to what you'll be doing for lab that week. So this will be a hybrid class. You can use the same Zoom link every time we meet. So every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30, I will try to record these sessions if you do miss any. But if you do have to miss, you can still keep up with the class on your own via the online aspect to it as well. So my name is Elizabeth Bamer. I've taught anatomy for several semesters and I've taught physiology at other places, but this is my first time teaching physiology at Long Beach. Granted, this is kind of new for everybody because it is online. There's my email. I respond within 24 hours. I try to respond within several hours of receiving your email. And I know I've been in communication with many of you. So send me an email or shoot me a message via Canvas and I'm happy to respond. These office hours have slightly changed. So I'm teaching at other colleges and we've already started and been in class for a couple weeks. But I'll be holding regular office hours on Sundays at 8 p.m. And I'll post that Zoom link in announcements for my office hours. And that'll be weekly. You guys can stop in. It'll be a normal office hours. So there could be other students there from some of my other classes. But there haven't been too many people there. So I hold office hours every Sunday. If there's anyone who works nights in here, and I do have a couple of students in my other classes, I sometimes hold an office hour for them during the afternoon on Sundays. And we can always make an arrangement if you want to meet outside of Sunday nights at 8 p.m. The dates of this class, you're with me through December. This is an introductory course based on human physiology. I'm sure you've all taken anatomy before, maybe Bio 60. Right now in the chat, if you could just tell me why you're taking this class and what you're taking it for, kind of as a way for me to take attendance to see who's here, and just for a way to for me to attach a name to your face and get to know you guys a little bit. So again, in the chat, if you could just write and share with everyone why you're taking this course. And if it's nursing or anything, awesome. So here are your student learning outcomes, the course structure and attendance policy. You are required to be here in these live Zoom meetings during the scheduled time. That's more for your benefit. Again, if you have to miss, I do record everyone and I have a YouTube channel. If you search for my name, Elizabeth Bamer, I think you can find me. I should probably find a way to make that more private or secure. I'll just delete it when I'm done teaching, which probably won't be for a while. But you can search for me and I'll also post the YouTube channel link, specifically for this class. How our course is structured is in modules, and I have one module for each unit or each lecture exam that you'll have. So there are roughly 4 modules, and in each module, it takes us through those assigned chapter readings, the labs that we'll do in that module. So I divide the course into modules and I'll take you through what that looks like. In each module, you'll find the chapter lecture PowerPoints, 1 quiz, a case study discussion post, and a lecture exam. And you'll also find lab instructions, videos, or lab report assignments. There'll be 2 lab exams throughout the semester as well. And they'll all be posted in modules. And to get to modules, you click right here. And again, I'll take you there at the end of this. We'll also be using My Lab and Mastering. So in terms of getting the textbook, you want to get the e-text, but especially with the mastering portion. I think the 18-week setup was like $70 or $75. Is that right? Does that sound about right? Okay. So hopefully that's not too much. That's actually a pretty good deal. You don't need anything else because We'll be doing labs through the mastering portion. It's called PhysioX, and I'll show you how to get there when we have a lab. We'll also be using what we call Labster, which some of your labs are already posted through that. One note that I'll just put out there right away, everything works best on Google Chrome. So if you don't have Google Chrome yet, you can download the extension, but try to get Google Chrome. Melanie, if you've purchased the textbook, you just have to purchase the mastering portion with the textbook. You have that, Melanie, too? So you need the textbook, probably an e-text version, and then it should say e-text and mastering. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if that helps answer your question. Also in the Pearson, the publisher, this online resource has dynamic study modules, homework help, chapter practice quizzes. There's probably too much in the mastering, but a lot of extra study sources to help you. In terms of what I'm grading you on, I'm not going to give you any assignments through mastering, except a few labs through this PhysioX that's included in the mastering. This is a 5-unit course, so expect to spend at least 20 to 25 hours per week. That includes reading, studying, coming to class. I know that seems like a lot, but if you want to do well in the course, just don't fall behind. Since it is an online course, a lot of this is up to you, since I'm not seeing you face to face, so a lot of this is your responsibility. If you do decide to withdraw, it's your responsibility to formally do so. We've been told not really to drop students for no-shows or at all because of the online setting. So I'm not going to be dropping anyone. So if you do want to withdraw, you just have to withdraw on your own. And I give you those dates to do that by. So here is what many of you had questions on, the required course materials. Here's the textbook through Pearson. With the access code, that just means with the mastering portion. Here's my course ID for our section. But the easiest way to get the textbook and the correct section and the mastering is to just click on My Lab and Mastering in the left navigation menu. I'm not sure what yours will look like, but when I click on it, it'll already take me through. I think right here, you'll get an option to like buy or purchase the textbook, I think. Has anyone done it this way? Is that pretty easy to do it that way? Okay. So if you don't have the textbook yet, this is probably the easiest way to do that, is to just click on the My Lab and Mastering, and it'll take you right into the correct textbook section from there. Okay. Again, if you guys have any questions, just holler out or put them in chat. I'm also checking the chat too. All right, so question? Okay. So I will regularly post your grades to Canvas, and what you see in Canvas is what you will get for your final grade. Here are the percentages, and then the assigned work. This introductory discussion post. Go ahead and mute everybody. You should be able to unmute yourself. The introductory discussion post, that's just the who am I discussion post, and I'll take you to show you that. You bought the 24-month lab and mastering last semester. Erica, you should be okay if it's the same textbook and you have it for 24 months, it's the same edition. Did you take anatomy this summer, Erica?
I took anatomy last semester.
Last semester, but you used this textbook?
Yeah.
With the mastering, as long as you have it for 24 months and everything matches up, then you should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Did you use PhysioX in lab, Erica? Do you remember?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So when I'm taking us through how to get to lab, just make sure it looks the same for you and you should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
So real quick, just about this textbook, we're using this textbook a lot. Anatomy sections are using it too. It's an A and P textbook. So it has both anatomy and physiology in it. So that's why if you have taken anatomy, some professors were using the anatomy portion of it and using it to continue on with physiology. So introduction discussion post, I'll show you where that is in modules. You'll have 4 lecture exams at 100 points, basically 100 questions, 4 quizzes, 1 per module, 4 case study discussion posts for module, 2 lab exams, and roughly 10 lab reports. It will for sure be 8. I'm working with some professors to find 2 other labs, but for sure 8 to 10 lab reports. When I say a lab report, it could just be a lab assignment as well. And then we have what we call supplemental instruction, and these are workshops. This is something different that you might not have had, well, you didn't have in anatomy. They're 10 points each, and they're kind of a way for you to get a little extra help attending a session on a difficult concept. And you would be doing this if we were in person at Long Beach as well. You would go to a workshop in the resource center with an instructor who would kind of help you with a difficult physiological concept. These will be held online via Zoom, and I think I put a flyer in the files somewhere, but there will be more information on how to get to workshops a little bit in a couple weeks. I'm one of the workshop instructors, so you might have me for some of your workshops as well. So total points, this is a rough estimate. Some things could be a little or more or less. Overall, your lecture exams are all multiple choice, true, false, matching, probably no short essay questions. One thing I'm going to highlight many, many times, just that there are no makeups or extensions for missed quizzes or missed exams. I also don't offer any extra credit, so please don't ask me, the last day of class or after the last day of class. I've had people ask me for extra credit to try to change their grade. So no extensions, no makeups. I usually give you more than 36 hours to take an exam through Canvas. So hopefully you just have to stay up to date on when the due dates are and you should be fine. The case study discussion posts, and I've already posted the one for the first module. It's just kind of a question that's to help kind of initiate discussion among you guys, the class. You get 10 points for an initial post. Your initial post has to answer the questions of the case study. It has to be at least 150 words. Sorry about that. And a citation is required. That citation can even be from the textbook, so it doesn't have to be anything too formal. Study guide for quizzes and exams. I'll let you know what chapters will be on quizzes. I'm not going to give out study guides. If you took me for anatomy, I know I did that, but I'm probably not going to do study guides for lecture exams, only because the resources that you have available to you through the mastering, through the textbook, a lot of those multiple choice questions will be really similar to what I would have on exams. So if you guys put in effort to prepare, you should be just fine. But I will, in my lectures, I'll often say, this is something important you should know for the exams. It's probably on a teacher website somewhere, is that I give out great study guides, but now you're probably bummed out. Yeah, no study guides, but I promise you can still do well. And that's just to help prepare you as you guys go on in your nursing career to learn the material without a study guide. And then you'll get 10 points for your reply post. And I want your reply post to your classmates to be a little more than just, oh, good job, or I agree with you, but maybe expand on it. Oh, I liked how you explained this, or I liked how you explained that. What do you think about this? So that's the case study part, discussion post. There will be 2 lab exams throughout the semester and lab reports or lab assignments. Labs will involve sometimes watching a short introductory video depending on what it's about. With the 3 labs in the modules for this one are all self-explanatory, but there will be a virtual lab that you'll always complete on your own. There'll either be questions to complete with it. There might be a PDF to upload if it's a PhysioX lab, and there will be ample direction for labs. And because we're meeting twice a week in a live setting, there will be plenty of time to ask questions about labs, and I'll provide a lot of instruction for them. Exams will be based on, well, hopefully the mastering and the textbook should have similar questions to it, but the dynamic study modules in the mastering portion will really help prepare you for the exams. Good question. I'll take you into the mastering and then I'll take you through modules. These are the workshops, the supplemental learning assistance requirement, and you guys will be watching an online video and then attending a live Zoom workshop only 3 times throughout the whole semester. And it'll be on a topic. You can pick the topic. Hopefully it'll match up with where we are in class. And it's just kind of another extra hour of supplemental learning. And we do these workshops based on difficult topics. So they're on hormones. One is on the cardiac cycle. One's on action potentials, the nervous system. So some of these more difficult physiological processes are these extra supplemental learning. So that'll be a separate Zoom session. You might have a separate instructor. That's not me, or you might have me. But those workshops are really helpful. You only have to do 3. What you do is you submit kind of a paper or a worksheet to the Multidisciplinary Success Center. You just email it to them when you've completed it, and then they let me know that you've completed it, and that's how I give you those 10 points, or 30 when you go to 3. This is basic needs. This is something new in a syllabus. If you need any sort of help, you can email this right here. Academic integrity. So this is all honor system. I expect you guys to take tests and quizzes without notes. I encourage you to do so, but I do that via an honor system. We're not using any sort of proctorio, or there won't be any artificial intelligence watching you taking exams like one of my other schools is doing. But for your benefit, and if you are going on into nursing school, you want to be able to know this material without having to look at your notes. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. And the exams will be timed, so it'll be really difficult for you to use notes during an exam. And speaking of which, if you have any DSPS modification, I've received a couple, and don't tell me now in front of everybody, but that is under here, student services. You can email them if you need any sort of modification. For those students who might need a modification, I usually just create a separate exam for you with your name on it. And I'll be sure to do that. Send me an email if I ever forget, and it'll just be like time and a half for that modification. Lab procedures, you'll complete a virtual lab simulation either through PhysioX, which is through your textbook, or through a program, a really fun program called Labster. And you might be required to submit reports through PhysioX. Labster just has you complete questions as you go, and I get that, and that'll be inputted into Canvas as a grade right away. What else? Questions for me? Is everyone overwhelmed yet? Is there any chance you might change your mind and guide us with your notes? Let's see how it goes. So lectures will be, because this is a hybrid class, lectures, I will lecture on topics, but I might not read through every single slide. Let's just see how it goes. How about this? When I make the exam, I'll give you some sort of direction into what to study, or we'll have like a study session before the test date. I'm feeling a census, even over online. I can feel your concern. Okay, our schedule then. All weeks begin on Monday and end on Sunday evening. I am kind of OCD about things, and it helps me to know if all of your assignments are due at the same time. So I try to make all your tests, quizzes, everything due Sunday night at midnight. That might be different for that opening discussion post. I can't remember when that was due, but Sunday evening at midnight will be when everything is due. Here are important fall dates if you do need to drop it all, so keep those in mind. It's your responsibility to confirm these. Okay, so schedule of topics. From here, we're gonna go into the modules, but again, I make up the class into 4 modules, and each module has maybe between 4 to 5, maybe 6 chapters. This is still 5 chapters in the textbook. The topic is listed at the top of the module, and then here's the big thing to look at, the due dates for the module. They each go for about a month. There will be a quiz in each, there will be a case study. You should come to live class. You should work through the dynamic study modules, which you can find through the e-text resources. You should also read the textbook. So there will be plenty of sources of study for you, as well as coming to class. Again, I'm calling class Tuesday and Thursdays at 6:30, a short lecture and lab introduction. So plan on this being maybe an hour and a half, but it's still, you'll need to do some studying on your own as well. And these are the 3 labs that we'll get through for this first month. And then we'll have a lecture exam due the 27th, which is a Sunday night, but I'll probably give you that whole weekend to do it. So I'll keep the exam open. And then our first lab exam will be in module 2 because you only have 2 lab exams throughout the semester. And then that'll take us through it. One difference as well is your final lecture exam will be cumulative. It'll cover mostly chapters, the final chapters, but there might be a couple questions in there on big topic overview items from the previous chapters as well. Our Zoom meeting optional. I'd encourage you to come to Zoom meetings just because you'll get really good information about how to do labs that might be harder to understand without coming to the Zoom session, but I will record them all and post them. But no, I'm not submitting any like attendance or anything. Okay. So here, you're probably all familiar with Canvas by now, whether you like it or not. Let's go into announcements first of all. This is where I communicate with you. You have the Zoom link in here and you can bookmark this Zoom link. This will be the same we use for the whole semester. When should you have the e-text by? It would be helpful, but you don't need it for a couple weeks yet because we won't be doing a lab out of it, but it might be nice to have it right away to start your studying. But there's nothing due from the electronic text. Yeah, there's a free trial period as well that goes for about 2 weeks, but you will need it to do some of the labs later on in the semester. But yeah, you have at least 2 or 3 weeks before you might need it. So announcements are there. And then the big thing that you're probably going to be spending the most of your time in is just the modules. Your grades will tell you the grades. Your files give you all the files that I post. But if you're just like me and you want to follow everything in an organized pattern, you can just always look at the modules. This Who Am I discussion post, and many of you have already posted something. This is just to verify with me that you've logged into Canvas, because if there are some people who have not logged into Canvas, I might add more people to make a space for them. So Who Am I discussion post, this is 10 easy points. It's right there. I also will be including in these discussions for each lab that you do, what I might do, or for each module, I might have like a module 1 discussion where you guys can post questions about the material in module 1 or the question about a lab. So I'll have many discussions and options for you guys to collaborate with each other. As well, if you guys want to start your own Zoom study group, I would really encourage that. One of my other classes is doing that. I'll let you guys facilitate that. Maybe I'll start a discussion post on it, and you guys can put your name on there if you guys want to begin kind of a Zoom study group as well, because I know in class you would probably be forming a study group working on things. Okay. So here is module 1, chapters 1 to 4. Because this is an anatomy and physiology book, you're going to notice the first couple chapters should be, I hope, a review from anatomy. So many of the PowerPoints have a part 1 and a part 2, and you'll notice these PowerPoints are extremely long and there's a lot of information. So Ryan, the material to study for exams is everywhere. You'll want to study the PowerPoints, you'll want to come to class, and I'll bring you guys into the My Lab and Mastering, where you'll find some other like online resources to help study for exams too. So this is why we're not going to get through probably every single slide in all of these PowerPoints when we meet. We'll do about a chapter a week. So we'll try to get through chapter 1 this week, chapter 2 the next, chapter 3, there's 4 parts to it. It's on the cell, and then chapter 4. So again, when we meet together, it'll be a abbreviated version of this, and you'll be expected to study a lot of this on your own as well. I include review questions for each chapter, and you might see some of those on a quiz or an exam sometime. So see, I do offer some helps. I'm not totally mean, as hopefully my other students can attest to who've had me before. Your quiz 1 is due September 13th, and it's on chapter 1 and 2. If you would go and click on it, you could see that it's available from September 11th to September 13th. So I will always give you a Friday to a Sunday to complete every quiz and every exam. So if you guys work, if you work nights, if you're busy on the weekend, you still have all of Friday through all of Sunday to complete these assignments. They will be timed. This one is, the quizzes will just be 10 questions. But basically what I'm trying to show you here is all of the modules will have all of your assignments, all the due dates. Post a Who Am I discussion post for 10 points. Here's a discussion post that you can put any of your questions in. Here's your syllabus. Here's information about the workshops. I knew I had posted this somewhere. So here are your workshops. Again, you have to attend 3 of them. There will be a live schedule, which I don't think is updated yet. And then you'll submit a handout to this email address using this subject line. And then they'll let me know that you completed it. So here are the workshop materials, the handout, and then the online lecture video that you'll watch based on what workshop you attend. All right, what else? Chapter PowerPoints. When we get through the chapters or the individual, every time we meet, I will post also the video in the modules, or I might just keep them, actually just bookmark my YouTube channel. I don't know if I'm going to keep posting twice a week, all those videos, because you'll be able to, I'll just put a link to the YouTube channel. That might be just easier. And you'll find all the recorded videos there, like the one that I'm recording right now. So this is module 4, and then we get to the 3 labs that you'll complete this module. Let's look at the case study. So this is an example of a case study. No one has done anything yet on it, which is fine because we haven't really talked about it. But in a case study, you'll see some sort of situation, some questions, and then I include the grading criteria also. And it's worth 20 points, 10 points for citing your initial post, and 10 points for saying a reply post to one of your classmates. So you'll want to make your initial post before the due date because to help each other out, you'll be needing to reply to people as well. Any other questions? It's so quiet. Can you guys unmute yourselves?
No questions yet.
Thanks, Erin.
No questions.
Okay. Let's talk about these first couple labs. So this is a lab. You'll just click on it there and it takes you right through this learning simulation. It gives you a little introduction for what you'll be observing. So this is kind of your introduction, and then you'll load lab 1. And it'll load it in a new window. It'll take you directly to the simulation. Can you guys still see my Chrome screen and all this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll need Google Chrome. It will make your laptop work a little bit. So I know it can work on Chromebooks, but you might hear your laptop start to heat up. I think they were trying to make updates so it doesn't do that as much. It'll take maybe a minute or 2 to load, but this is what Labster is. So Labster is something that Long Beach has to pay for its students to use. So this isn't free for anybody, but because you're a student in this class, you get to use this. And this is what we use to supplement some of our labs. And the first one is on homeostatic control. And basically it takes you into a virtual lab and it gives you directions for how to complete the lab. It might take you an hour or so to get through all the questions, depending on what lab it is. Some might run shorter than an hour, some might run faster than an hour. And you'll have questions that you need to answer throughout the lab, but it will take you okay, so you'll have someone talking to you. You'll enter in the door, that's Dr. One. This is your little iPad. Can you guys still see it, everybody? Okay. Thanks for nodding your head for those of you who have your cameras on, because I can see you. Okay. So basically, this is your little iPad. The score is 0 out of 70, but for how high put your labs in Canvas, it's only worth 10 points. So you answer questions as you go through it, and it's kind of like a video game. And a lot of students usually like it because it's just kind of fun to work through. So just play around with it. You have a due date for when to complete these labs. It takes you through where to find things. This is your lab pad, which will give you extra theories, media, missions, your checklist. This is what you're going to go through in today's lab. And then you'll continue. This will take me through everything, but eventually you'll work your way and you'll have to click different things around the lab. You guys are probably better doing this than I am because you're used to technology like this. But my computer's already working kind of hard. So let's see. So we'll enter the lab, and each lab might look a little different. Click the door to enter. I'm not sure. I bet it's not letting me enter because you probably have to work through some more things on your lab pad first. I don't know what this is. So sometimes, the control panel. I don't know why it's not letting me enter it. I think it's because I haven't worked through all the progress in my lab pad yet. So anyway, I'm going to exit out of that for now. And that is an example of a Labster stimulus. Yes, the Labster automatically transfers your grades for you on Canvas. It should anyway. I set it up that way. Good question. So in your grades, I'm not sure what, this will be different for you, so I'm not even going to show you because I have like everything with mine. But yes, it should transfer directly to Canvas. If it doesn't, I'll make sure that it's out of 10 points. But let's go back to modules. Yeah, so you can see how each lab is set up to be 10 points. So even though you're answering maybe 70 questions, it'll be out of 10 points. No, Jorge, I must have some former students in here. I don't have any notes that you have to print out for PowerPoints. Because of all the online resources, we're doing things more online through the textbook for this semester. And because we won't be getting through all the PowerPoints in lecture, I won't be making notes for them. I know you guys really liked that. I'm sensing that anyway. Okay, and then I'll always have your case study and your exam due on the same weekend. Your labs will be due about 1 a week. And then you'll have a quiz kind of in the middle area. And the quiz usually will just be on the couple chapters from that module. Okay, so normally we'll either do labs through Labster, and each one I put in parentheses there if it's through Labster. If it's not through Labster, it'll be through this My Lab and Mastering. So this is where the textbook comes into play. So you'll open My Lab and Mastering. And this again will look different for you guys, but it should be kind of similar. You should have access to all the dynamic study modules. I'll make sure you guys have access to the dynamic study modules. Have any of you guys looked in your mastering yet? Do you know if you have?
When I look, it doesn't show.
I'll come back to that. You have your Pearson e-text, and then you have this area called the study area on the left. So I'm just going to open up the study area. When you launch the study area, under here where it says Physio X, this is the lab exercises that we might be using. And when we use some of these are also virtual labs. They're different exercises, and there's maybe 5 to 8 activities per exercise. And each activity has a PDF lab report that you'll need to upload to Canvas. Or I might have you do just exercises 1, 2, 3, and 4 or something. So these are PhysioX labs that we'll also be using. When we have a PhysioX lab due soon, I'll use one of our live lectures to walk you through how to get here again, how to go through an activity, and then how to basically you complete the activity and then it gives you a PDF form at the end, and you just save that PDF to your device and then you upload that PDF to Canvas. So here is the virtual lab in PhysioX. It's not as fun as the Labster, but it takes you through some really great introductory information. And then it has a couple of pre-test questions. So this is what would be in your lab report. When you do your lab reports, I kind of just look for completion to make sure you answered them. And then I grade your written responses. So I'm submitting this. And then this is actually the virtual lab that you would do. It takes you through the directions of what you should do. So this is stimulating a muscle, and then it gives you the time and the force of that muscle contraction. So it's really actually kind of fun. And the muscle isn't there at all because we haven't put any tension on the muscle itself. So this is an example of a PhysioX lab, and this is one is about muscle twitch in the latent period. So when we get to PhysioX labs, I will give you, I might even record a video for how to get here to make sure everyone can get here. But this is why you'll need to purchase the textbook with that mastering portion, because it comes with this PhysioX material that you'll need for lab. Okay. So I'm just going to go back to the home study area. This is where you can study by chapter. And in each chapter, you get chapter quizzes, chapter practice tests that I might use some of the questions on there sometime. There's flashcards, there's glossaries, there's A&P tours, there's like other videos you can watch. So there's so much information basically to study that it's probably a little overwhelming at times. But I would encourage you to find maybe one way that works for you to studying, either quizzing yourself with the chapter practice tests after we work through a chapter together to test your kind of grasp of that knowledge. And if you feel like you can answer most of those chapter practice test questions well, then maybe that's all you need to do. But I'll also be sure to make sure that you guys have access to what we call these dynamic study modules. And they're basically just more virtual resources. It's like an instructor teaching you the same material like me, but just for each chapter. So this is where the My Lab and Mastering is. I could also be creating assignments for you to do in here with points attached to them, but I'm not doing that because I just don't want to overwhelm you with a million things to do. So there's even more we could be doing in here too. Questions on the mastering. Is this kind of making sense? Why don't, on a scale of 1 to 10, write in the chat how overwhelmed you are. Like 10 being, 1 being you have no idea what's going on, 10 being like, this makes sense, I feel like I have a good handle on things. So I just want a 1 to 10 poll. Okay, so 10 being good, I feel good about it. 1 and 2 being I'm completely lost, overwhelmed. Okay, this is helpful for me to see. Some 4s and 5s. PhysioX and virtual labs seem confusing. Yeah, that'll be the confusing part. And we'll take you through the first 3 labs. So let's go back to the modules. 6 out of 10. Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. So in the modules, you'll get direct links to these Labster labs. So real easy. The first module labs are simple because it takes you directly to the Labster lab that I just opened up. And as you guys work through it, it grades it for you and then inputs your grade out of 10 into Canvas. So this module Labster will be fine. The PhysioX will be a little trickier, but I'll walk you through that when we get there. It's really just remembering how to get there. Again, once you open up the mastering, it's in the study area. And then you launch the studying area. And within the study area, it's just this PhysioX. And PhysioX just means the lab. And you'll go into exercises. And this is where you'll find all the exercises. And I'll just tell you to do exercise 1, 2, or 3. There's a lot we could do in here. And I'll grade those by hand. These do not input your scores directly. You'll have to upload a PDF file after you complete it. Okay. Yeah, a lot of it's just getting used to it. And I try to keep it simple and straightforward. All your due dates, all of your assignments are just in the module. I know each module covers like a month, so that's kind of a lot. But for me, it was easier to do that way because that means that everything in module 1 will be on your first lecture exam, except for labs. Labs aren't not included in a lecture exam. There might be some lab material that's helpful for learning the material, but specific questions will be just based on the chapters from this first module. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you what the chapter 1, part A PowerPoint looks like. And then on Thursday, we'll kind of finish up the part A PowerPoint and we'll do the part B. So it'll be a more regular lecture. So I'm just going to take about maybe 15, 20 more minutes to lecture a little bit on the chapter 1, part A PowerPoint. But hopefully if you should have taken anatomy, this will be a little bit of a review, and I'll show you this now. So can you guys all see my PowerPoint in front of you, hopefully? Okay, so here's the part A, the human body and orientation. So there's about 60 slides here. We're not gonna get through it all, but I just wanna take you through, this probably could be a first lecture PowerPoint that you'd have in anatomy. So many of you probably still need to review these, but a lot of it will be on organization, and we're just going to kind of go through these slides pretty quickly, and hopefully some of it will be reviewed for you. Again, when we look at anatomy and physiology, in anatomy you just study the structures, the body parts, and their relationship to one another, and in physiology now we're learning the function of those body parts and how they all work together to carry out everything to keep you guys alive, basically. The topics of anatomy can be gross or macroscopic, and that refers to the large visible structures, and you guys learned those when you studied all the surface structures. It can be divided into regional anatomy. Systemic anatomy looks at systems, and surface anatomy only looks at structures on the surface. Microscopic anatomy deals with structures that are too small to be seen with the naked eye. So you probably remember histology very well. We'll be reviewing the tissues a little bit. And cytology is the study of cells. Developmental anatomy looks at development from before birth. The study of physiology then, which is more of what we're going to focus on here, we usually subdivide it based on organ systems. So we'll look at an organ system and how it functions together, like the urinary system, the digestive system, and we'll be looking at each system individually. We'll be looking at cellular and molecular levels of the body, so we're going to get into some chemistry, because in order to learn how everything works together, you have to get down to the details, which are all the chemical molecules. One must understand basic physical principles like electrical currents, pressure, and movement, as well as basic chemistry. So this is where physiology is maybe not harder than anatomy, but it takes a little more mental kind of figuring out and putting it all together in your head. Complementary of structure and function, they are inseparable, as you know, because anatomy talks about the structure and physiology talks about how everything functions together. So in anatomy, you learned all the names of the bones, the names of the muscles. In physiology, we really focus on how does a muscle contract and what are all the molecules that go into muscle contraction. So this just looks at structure and function and how they're interrelated. And an example of showing how they're complementary to each other, showing the sharp edges of your incisor teeth, which you remember your incisors from anatomy, and why they are so sharp and what they do. They help to break down the carrot or whatever you're biting into smaller pieces. The structural organization of the human body, it's very organized, and you should know this structure level of organization. We start at the chemical level, atoms, we move up to cells, and then tissues, which are groups of cells. Organ levels, our organs contain 2 or more types of tissues. Organ systems are organs that work closely together, and they make up the organism or the human. So you should know this level of structural organization, beginning with atoms forming molecules and eventually getting up to the organismal level. I think I had a question like that in anatomy where you list the structures of organization. Yeah, that course ID should work, Irene. You might need to purchase the access code, but to make sure you're in the right section, use that course ID. I think you have to use my last name before those numbers though. All right, so I'm going to let you guys review the levels of structural organization, but these slides just take you through those levels of organization. These are necessary life functions. So in order to stay alive, we need to maintain all of these, maintaining boundaries, movement, responsiveness, your nervous system, digestion, bringing in food for energy, metabolism, creating energy from that food, and then expelling any waste products, excretion, reproduction, all of your cells will divide, and growth. Necessary life functions, I'll let you guys review these necessary life functions on your own. Again, it should be a review for anatomy, but this is just something that our bodies will do to maintain survival. And then we get into the 11 organ systems that work together to maintain life. And like I said, as we go through this physiology class, we're going to be focused on these organ systems kind of as each organ system and figuring how it works together. Examples of some interrelationships between organ systems. A big example is between the digestive and respiratory system. Your digestive system brings in food, which gets broken down into glucose. And then your cells use that glucose and oxygen taken in from your respiratory system to create energy. Your urinary system is involved in that as well because it filters blood. So your organ systems are also working together, even though we'll be looking at them separately. We might eventually bring them together and show them how they're all working together as well. All right, so this is just an example of the 11 organ systems. So your integumentary system are your hair, skin, and nails, and it gives you kind of a brief summary of the function on this slide as well. Your skeletal system, you guys remember learning all the bones and bone names and processes. So your bones provide the framework and movement and protection. The muscular system helps with locomotion, facial expression. It helps to maintain posture and produce heat. Our posture is probably so bad right now because we're all hunched over our computers. The nervous system, your brain, your spinal cord, your spinal nerves. In physiology, you'll be reviewing what are the parts of the nervous system, but now how it all works and functions. The endocrine system are all of your hormones and how your hormones control a lot of the bodily processes, like especially going through puberty, a lot changes. So this is the endocrine system. You have a workshop on hormones and the endocrine system because hormones can be a little complex as well. Cardiovascular system, you have a workshop on the cardiac cycle. So you've learned about the heart and all the blood vessels and their names, but now we'll really focus on how they all work together to pump blood through the body. The lymphatic system is really your immune system. The lymphatic system works to kind of catch all the extra interstitial fluid and help to initiate an immune response to attack anything foreign. The respiratory system takes in oxygen, expels carbon dioxide. Your digestive system's main purpose to take in food, break it down to glucose so that your cells can use it to create energy. And then everything that your body doesn't need will be eliminated as feces. And then your urinary system filters your blood. If your kidneys do not function, you have to go to dialysis and get hooked up to a machine that will filter the blood for you. All right, Irene, let me, I'll answer your question when we're done lecturing here and I'll try to help you get into that. Don't let me forget and I'll see what we can do about that. The male reproductive system and then female reproductive system are important, especially during puberty, to start the puberty response with hormones. And then the survival needs. So here's what every human needs for survival: nutrients, oxygen, water, normal body temperature, and atmospheric pressure. And they use homeostasis to try to maintain all certain levels of that. And that's why your first lab is about homeostasis. Oh, Irene, yeah. Listen, thanks, Erin, for putting that out. See if that helps you too, Irene. So here are their survival needs, and it kind of breaks it down, those survival needs, into a little more detail. So I'll let you guys read through that. Homeostasis is really what your first lab is on. So I'm going to let you review homeostasis on your own and work through your lab. But again, hopefully this is a review from anatomy a little bit. The big things that you should know about homeostasis is the receptor that will monitor the environment and respond to any sort of stimuli, which is a change in a controlled variable. So let's say it gets really cold all of a sudden where we all are. I wish that was the case. Did you guys hear it's going to be like 110 this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Under another like heat warning. Yeah. Anyway, so let's say it gets really hot. So that will be a change from a normal controlled variable. When it gets hot, the receptors in your skin will take in that increase in temperature, send that stimulus of increased heat to the control center. Usually it's the brain, sometimes it's something else in the body. That control center then sends out a response to an effector, which will help to reduce the stimulus or enhance the stimulus. Reducing the stimulus, most of our body processes work via negative feedback. So the effectors in your body in extreme heat would start to sweat to try to release the heat to cool your body down. A positive feedback mechanism is something that reinforces a change. And the best example for positive feedback in the female body is just labor contractions, that you'll continue to have contractions until the baby is born. So that'll be positive feedback due to a hormone. So this takes you through negative feedback, and it gives you two great examples that I talked about of body temperature and blood glucose levels. Other examples of negative feedback, and this is kind of that negative feedback balance. You might see a picture like this on a quiz coming up. Maybe, I don't know, as in you will. So here's kind of the balance of your body that it tries to maintain. If there's a stimulus which produces an imbalance, that will get sent to a receptor which will detect that change and send it to the control center via what we call the afferent pathway. That control center will send out a response via the efferent pathway to an effector, which is usually a muscle or a gland, to try to change the balance back to normal. And again, we can continue this cycle if there's an imbalance in the other direction. And this just shows you how body temperature kind of goes through this cycle of negative feedback, showing you where the imbalance is, how the receptors take in the stimulus, send it to the control center, and then give out a response to the effectors. Homeostatic control, this is again what your lab will be on. So it'll take you through positive and negative feedback. Another good example of positive feedback is explained here. When you get a tear or a break in an artery, if you've been cut, positive feedback cycle is initiated to tell platelets to come to the site of damage and adhere to that site to try to stop the bleeding. The platelets are in themselves the control center, and they'll tell more platelets to come in until the bleeding has stopped. So this is an example of a positive feedback loop. As you guys are going through the PowerPoints, there's always notes in the bottom here. And if I were to give you my notes, I would make them based on these PowerPoint slides. So download the PowerPoint slides to your computer instead of just looking at them in Canvas, and you'll have access to the notes that are usually what I would use to create your notes if you had me for anatomy. Okay, so this takes you through the steps of positive feedback in the platelet plug, and then homeostatic imbalance, and then a copyright warning at the end. All right, so this is what we'll go over tonight. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'll be open